Good afternoon on this Thursday, the 29th day of January 2026. We're going to be discussing about this big snowstorm that's going to be impacting the Carolinas on Saturday into Sunday. This is going to be a big one, especially for those couple of areas that we'll be talking about. Not so much for the Northeast as what we previously thought, but still going to get some strong offshore winds there across the Northeast associated with this storm system. So let's take a look here with what we got on satellite, because this is where it all starts right here, right? We have a big trough of lower pressure up here, a very strong Arctic trough, we call it, that is in place. This is bringing much colder temperatures across much of the northern plains, the Great Lakes region. You can even see how cold it is just by looking at the Great Lakes region, where all that cloud cover, that lake effect cloud cover, forms very fast, indicating that the air aloft is really cold relative to the Lake Michigan, and that's how you're getting that. But this is where all the energy is, and it's going to be ejecting into basically the southeast as we go into tomorrow night into Saturday, and that's going to trigger a big snowstorm. Some of the highest snowfall totals in a long time for Raleigh as well as Charlotte that is coming. Maybe a little bit of snow for Atlanta, but mainly going to target South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, and parts of Kentucky, eastern Kentucky, that is. So here's a look at the latest alerts right now from the National Weather Service, and I'll tell you what, we're at it again. Areas that the ice did not go away because of all the melting. We'll be looking at power outages here from that historic deadly winter storm that killed a lot of people, unfortunately. There is extreme cold warnings out there across Mississippi, parts of Arkansas, again, Louisiana, literally New Orleans, Louisiana, under extreme cold warning. We got a cold weather advisory out across much of the Midwest, as well as Texas, Oklahoma, with a winter storm warning now issued for Bristol, Tennessee, as well as a winter storm watch for the Carolinas, Virginia. We got extreme cold watches down here into southern Florida. I talked to my friend earlier today, Alex Baller, that lives down there in Miami, Florida, and they're expecting wind chills as low as 20 degrees. 20 to 25 degrees above zero. They're expecting those wind chills. So this is pretty darn significant from both a snow perspective and a Arctic air perspective. We got extreme cold warnings up here also for the Northeast. So definitely a lot of colder air is going to be ushering southward as this low really bonifies off the mid-Atlantic coast. And actually there is, I believe that is storm watches. Yes, storm watches are already out according to the Newport Moorhead City Weather Office. Storm watches are out for wind gusts that could reach 55 to 60 knots. That is very strong. That will do a lot of damage, very rough surf. We got storm watches up here also for parts of the Northeast. So if it's not the snow for the Northeast, it is going to be the ferocious Arctic winds that come in out of the north associated with this bonified system. But otherwise, most of the country looking nice and quiet other than just the cold air products that we're seeing. So now let's time this out on the latest models. A lot of you were asking in my latest video. Sorry if I didn't get to the comments. Of course, right after I upload the video, I try getting to bed at like 2 or 3 in the morning. So that's why I'm not able to get to the questions, but I try my best at doing so in most of my other videos. So here's a look at the latest Euro model for Saturday morning. Actually, let's go back. Let's go back here. Yeah, so this is going to be for Friday afternoon, and you can see right up in here, you have what we call a baroclinic isentropic outflow shield, what we call a foxtail. What I mean by that is you have a lot of upper level support in the right front quadrant of this temperature gradient. You got air that is actually being lifted from the lower parts of the atmosphere to the higher parts, helping to lift that moisture and cool it off. Because as you know, lifting is a cooling mechanism, and that really helps to saturate the atmosphere. So that is why you see this little bit of a foxtail look to the system over Tennessee as well as Kentucky, southern portion there of West Virginia, western portion of the state of Virginia, seeing a little bit of that snow developing as early as tomorrow afternoon. In fact, some parts of Bristol, Tennessee could see snow by tomorrow morning. How does that sound? A little bit of snow maybe as early as tomorrow morning, tomorrow late morning, early afternoon. But this is where it's going to happen. This is the big system. It all starts also down here where we have a lot of thunderstorm activity that's going to get going because of how warm the Gulf Stream current is off the coast of Florida across the northern Bahamas. And so you have a low over here. You have another low over here, and these two are going to phase. They're going to phase up right about in here, and it's going to produce a superstorm off the coast of Virginia and North Carolina. You'll see that play out here as we go into Saturday afternoon. That's where the snow really gets going over the Carolinas. We're talking some pretty significant snowfall totals. Parts of Atlanta, Georgia, you could get a couple, maybe about an inch or two of snowfall. Don't be surprised by that. For Central and North Carolina and South Carolina, that's where you have the heaviest snowfall. Along the coast here of the Mid-Atlantic, that's where we have the heaviest snowfall to talk about. And actually, as we zoom in a little bit, you can see where the heaviest snowfall is going to be accumulating. These darker blue colors do indicate moderate to heavy snowfall is expected with this type of system, including for parts of Maryland. But you notice here on latest models, New York City, boy, I'm telling you, you're gonna get spared by the snow, but you're not gonna get spared by the strong winds associated with this. Offshore, northerly, and northwesterly flow could bring down some trees and power lines. Even so, you don't see the snow necessarily according here to the European model. But look at where you do see the snow. Nantucket, Rhode Island, Cape Cod, and I did include Rhode Island. Massachusetts, you get a little bit of snowfall associated with this, but it's going to be that strong northerly flow that is going to wreak havoc on your power system, down trees and power lines. Some snow flurries over Rhode Island and Nantucket. That's where the best chances of snow will be before that system tapers off. So now let's take a look here at the GFS model, the Global Forecasting System. Because this is what we really do need to look at, because different models have different opinions on this. And this system has been nothing but a trick star for a lot of us as forecasters to pin down. So looking at the GFS model here, you can see, again, light to moderate snowfall, especially by Friday late morning, early afternoon here on the GFS. With that baroclinic system that's going to be in place, we'll be looking at the upper level jet stream dynamics here in this live stream. But you can see similar play out here. Lots of moisture here, lots of lift. We got another area of moisture, and these two are going to combine and get us some pretty good snow. Now, on the GFS model, it thinks the heaviest snowfall will be down here in Wilmington. Let's actually go over to... Let's go over to North Carolina here and look at that. So you can see here clearly the heaviest snowfall will be over Raleigh, southward into Charlotte, North Carolina. We got central South Carolina. We got Wilmington, North Carolina that's in play. And this is some pretty good snowfall. These darker blues here indicate snowfall rates of at least an inch or two an hour with this type of system. Very strong pressure gradient as well, meaning winds are going to be strong with this type of setup, and then that moves offshore and then doesn't really impact the Northeast at all. In fact, if we look at the Northeastern sector, you can see just a little bit of snow here on the GFS model over Nantucket, over Cape Cod, as well as Rhode Island. Nothing for Long Island, due to the fact that most of the snow will be missing you down to the south. So good news here, we do have better agreement that most of the snowfall will be down to the south of New York City for those that don't like snow. But if you're a snow lover, this is going to be terrible news for you to hear, right? So yes, no snow, but much colder air will be felt though for New York for sure, associated with the system like this, and that moves offshore, leaving everyone dry. Now, of course, the live stream here is mainly to talk about this storm system, but these systems keep on popping up. The GFS is like, okay, that system wasn't good enough. We will add more additional snowstorms to the mix here. And so we have more snowstorms behind this. That's what I wanted to cover in this live stream as well. But then we'll be going back and looking at our snowfall totals with this system for the Carolinas. So that goes on by. Conditions are good. Then we got another system developing over the high plains potentially by early next week. So in about 5 or so days, we have another system developing. This could bring more significant snowfall for Chicago, parts of Illinois, as well as, say, Michigan, this time in the Ohio Valley, and then, of course, across the Northeast. So more additional snowfall is coming to the United States and the Great Lakes by the middle of next week. Then that goes on by, and then you get a little more snow. These systems that come out of the Northwest, they're typically drier and colder because colder air holds less moisture. But then there's a little another Alberta clipper that moves on by across the Great Lakes, but doesn't do a whole lot. But then, of course, on this GFS model, it goes a little crazy. And if we look at prior model runs, you can see there's a lot of uncertainty in the forecast this far out at 300 hours. But just so you know, the pattern does look to be quite busy through the middle of February with additional snowstorms following each other. But not much for California, unfortunately. So yeah, we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on the pattern for a while here as it remains quite active. So now, with that being said, let's go back to our snowfall totals here and look at who's going to get what. Okay, so first of all, we're going to use the expected amount and then look at the high amount because, yeah, there's a high-end scenario here. If the system produces a little bit more snow than what models thought, that's what the high-end amount is showing. But this is the expected amount. So let's click here on, this is Wilson, North Carolina. You're looking at 8 to 15 inches of snowfall. If we go down here in Charlotte, North Carolina, you're looking at 8 to 13 inches of snow. Stateville, North Carolina, 8 to 13 inches of snowfall. But the Appalachians here, you're looking at 9 to 12 inches of snowfall. And then Mount Mitchell, North Carolina, you're looking at 10 to 13 inches of snowfall associated with this. But now, based on this forecast, okay, so skew out the model data. Let's not worry about the Euro and the GFS. That's why I'm not showing them snowfall totals there. Instead, we're looking at the National Weather Service because, well, the National Weather Service is a lot more reliable than models themselves because they look at a blend of averages. So Raleigh, North Carolina, 8 to 17 inches. We'll look at the high-end total here in a second, but look at this. Elizabeth City, a foot of snowfall is the potential here. New Hope, North Carolina, or Hartford, North Carolina, 12 to 14 inches. Let's go up here to, let's see what that is, Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach, 7 to 14 inches of snow. Pittsburgh, Virginia, or Norfolk, Virginia, or Norfolk, something like that. I can't say it right all the time. That's a weird pronunciation of how you say Norfolk. But yeah, either way, 10 to 14 inches of snowfall is anticipated there across the Portsmouth. That's what it is, not Pittsburgh. Portsmouth. Man, those cities are hard to see. I'm being honest. Those cities are hard to see. Let's go here to Roanoke, Virginia, 4 to 12 inches. Lynchburg, we're looking at 4 to 12 inches of snowfall as well. Let's go down to South Carolina, like Columbia, South Carolina. You're looking at 6 to 7 inches of snowfall. What about Augusta, Georgia? 3 to 5 inches of snowfall. And then there's your Atlanta right there, running at around an inch. So yeah, maybe some flurries over there in Atlanta, Georgia, after getting a tear amount of ice with the last system. Yeah, terrible. Let's go up here. Let's see. Yeah, let's go here. Clemson, 4 to 6 inches. Let's see about Bristol, Tennessee. My friend lives in Bristol. My awesome viewer loyalty over here that runs the YouTube channel for me, helps run the YouTube channel, that is expecting 4 to 11 inches of snowfall. So yeah, definitely some significant accumulations there associated with this. Now, of course, for New York, Okay, I want to make it clear here. New York does not look like you're going to get hardly anything. That is fortunate because that's a very big metropolitan area. But yeah, other areas are not going to get so lucky. Maybe an inch here on the southernmost brim of Long Island, like Southampton. You might get 1 or 2 inches of snowfall, and Cape Cod only half an inch on the expected amount. But of course, this is really far out. So I'm sure these totals will go up a little bit more. But just so you know, not forecasting a whole lot there. Now, one other area that's not directly related to the storm is going to be off the lake of Lake Ontario here. You might see 8 inches of snowfall with that lake effect snow. That's what the forecast is. Buffalo, 1 to 3 inches of snowfall expected there. Let's see, Syracuse, maybe as much as, 3 to 4 inches of snowfall. But yeah, Sawdust, New York, 8 to 9 inches of snowfall. So those totals really came down actually from this morning's video when it was showing a lot more. So now let's take a look at the high end amount. So what is the worst case scenario if this will actually load? Please load. There you go. Right on cue. So this is the worst case scenario. Okay. So from the expected scenario to the highest end potential, the 10th percentile, the 10% chance of seeing this. So, of course, Bristol would see under this situation up to a foot of snowfall, which isn't too surprising given the some of the orographic effects there. 12 to 15 inches of snowfall along parts of the Appalachians, like Greenville, could see a foot of snowfall. Some other little towns here like Elk Park, North Carolina, could see 8 to 13 inches of snowfall. But this area in red here, that's 18 inches plus for those areas. So we are talking about Durham, North Carolina, that could get up to 19 inches of snowfall if this scenario does pan out. It doesn't mean it will pan out. It just means that there's that outside potential. All right, Greensboro, North Carolina, 8 to 19 inches of snowfall there. So that's a big range, okay? So as low as, say, 8 inches is expected to as high as 19 inches, which means there's a little bit of uncertainty to be worked out in the modeling when it comes to the National Weather Service, but you are still expecting here up to at least 8 inches plus. Raleigh, North Carolina, 17 inches of snowfall is expected for that area. Okay, that's what the model is showing. And then you get down here, still 19 inches on the high end. But what about, say, Virginia Beach? 13, 15 inches? That's quite a bit. That is a lot for that area. Richmond in Virginia, 2 to 10 inches. So the high end amount here is 10 inches. Let's see, Lynchburg, 4 to 11 inches. Roanoke over here, you're looking at up to maybe 12.5 to 13 inches on the very high end forecast. And then as we look here at, say, New York City, the high end forecast is an inch with maybe up to 3 inches here over Cape Cod, parts of Long Island. So even the high end forecast really not very sympathetic here about snowfall for that area. It's really going to be targeting this whole area is where we think the heaviest snowfall amounts will actually be. But yeah, you can see anywhere in the yellow, that's 6+ inches on the high end forecast. But now the low end forecast, what is the lowest end that you will see? Well, Cameron, North Carolina, you will see at least 6 inches. That is your at least amount. There's a 90% chance you will see a 6 inches of snowfall. And then, of course, over Cheraw, South Carolina, you're looking at least 6 inches as well. So these are your minimum amounts. These are your expected amounts and your high end. So again, low, medium, high is what you're seeing. Now, of course, we'll look at the ice forecast because, yes, there might be a glaze of ice with this system, just a little bit. We're not talking a whole lot about ice here, but something to consider that you might get a little bit of ice. You just might. And so you can see here on the high-end forecast, 0.02 of an inch to maybe 0.05 of an inch near New Bern, North Carolina, which could get about 0.05 of an inch of ice. That's not a whole lot, but that it could make your commute a little interesting. Wilmington, North Carolina could get up to 0.06 of an inch of ice if possible. But the expected amount here, yeah, you're only looking at about a couple of hundredths. So it's not really enough to cause a lot of problems, but maybe a little bit of loss of traction on the roadways due to all that ice. Due to some ice, that is. So yeah, some ice with this system, but mainly a snow event otherwise. So let's take a look now at the winter storm severity index here for a lot of you that are wondering about, okay, I haven't shown this in a while, and which relates to what I will show here next. Okay, so Raleigh, North Carolina, you're looking at you're looking at major impacts with this, and there is a small area here, a small area. In this purple area, that's extreme impacts. Yeah, this purple area, extreme impacts on this map. That includes for parts of Cape Cod, not Cape Cod. Gosh, my brain. That includes for the Pamlico Sound as well as, say, Cape Hatteras, where you could see expect substantial disruptions to daily life, extremely dangerous or impossible driving conditions. Travel is not advised. Extensive and widespread closures and disruptions to infrastructure may occur. Life-saving actions may be needed. That's what this purple area is. But the main area here in red is where you have major impacts. That's where you're expecting considerable disruptions to daily life, dangerous to impossible driving conditions. Please avoid travel if possible under this type of situation. All right, and then of course to the north, you have minor impacts here associated with this system with no impacts expected for the Northeast. So it's, again, really targeting the Carolinas. Now, for that reasoning, this is my latest storm impact index that I have for you all that are wondering, okay, what is David's thoughts on this? So anything in red here is a storm warning. This means, not, and there's other parameters that come to play at this, okay? So, like say, for an example, parts of Bristol, Tennessee, you're not going to necessarily see the wind, but you're going to see the snow. So, and this is confidence and based on rarity as well. So that's also taken into consideration here. So Bristol, Tennessee, you're under a storm warning. That means you will see at least, even if you see a foot, how often do you get a foot of snowfall? Not very often, right? Charlotte, North Carolina, storm warning is issued for your area. And then, of course, over Cape Hatteras as well as the Pamlico Sound here in North Carolina. Should extend the extreme storm warning a little further south, but you can see here, extreme storm warning. That means wind gusts of at least 65 miles an hour or greater are expected. Not necessarily snow driven here. You're not going to see 24 inches of snow, right? You're not going to see 2 feet. You're going to see about a foot of snowfall in some areas here, but it's going to be that wind that's going to be the issue here instead. And of course, across the Northeast, you're probably wondering, well, wait, David issued a storm warning, but wait, there's not going to be there's not going to be snow, he said. Well, it's going to be driven by wind. Okay, it's either wind driven, snow driven, or ice driven. It's one of those 3 parameters, or rainfall driven as well. Okay, and so if it's not snow, well, there's something else. It's wind driven. So that's what this actually indicates. So high winds expected in New York, Boston mainly. More wind than snow. Let's just put it that way. All right. And this is not an official National Weather Service product. I want to make sure you all understand that. This is not official from the National Weather Service. This is all hand created, drawn, and mapped out by me. I physically make this. Okay. This is not an NWS product. Okay, so please refer to your local office for more information on actual storm impacts. But this is what I think is going to happen. Now, for Florida, it's going to be mainly a wind threat. So that's why there's a storm watch issued, because wind gusts could reach 45 miles an hour, which we'll look at here right now. So speaking of that, let's take a look here at windy.com. I really like this website because it does a pretty good job at illustrating on what the upper level dynamics are going to be associated with this type of system. So I want you all to pay attention to this trough buckled up here. See this trough right up here? It's really well attached pretty much all across the extreme northeast. So out ahead of this, you're getting some lift, but not a whole lot of moisture to help with that, and not a whole lot of temperature gradients to work with. But watch what happens here to the jet stream as this drops down. Take note, look at this pinch right here, this upper level vort max that is rotating over St. Louis, Missouri. This would be for Friday afternoon. And then out ahead of it, watch the flow change. So see how this starts diverging? See how there's a little bit of divergent flow aloft here? You can easily see it. This is where we have a lot of baroclinic ascent, a lot of lift in the atmosphere. Lower your pressures, tighten the gradient is how we look at this. And you can see this trough here, this scoop underneath that we've talked about in previous discussions in the past. When you get this scoop down effect, that is a lot. That's how you get baroclinic leafs associated with a system like this, or barotropic as well in the upper parts. So when we go forward, look at this jet. Look how this really increases. Look at that upper level flow diverging aloft, that left exit region. That's why we're getting a lot of pressure falls, very significant pressure falls associated with this jet streak that's going to be encroaching over Florida. That is very, very, very far south to get the polar jet stream. I mean, if you look at this latitudinally, that is literally almost down to, well, pretty much in central Baja California. That is very darn far south. That really is. And that's highly anomalous for this time of the year. So that is why Florida, you're going to be complaining about how cold it is for a lot of Floridians that are not used to this because of how energetic that's going to be. Look at this system. Look at that jet streak. 155 mile an hour flow in the upper levels. That's exactly why this system is going to be such a big problem. Now let's look at the surface winds here. What is the surface going to look like? Well, at the surface, we have a couple of things that are going to be shaping up here. First of all, we have the main area of convergence over the Appalachians, over Bristol. Then we have another surface low that's going to be developing here, and all of these are going to kind of collide and make a superstorm. And so that's why this system is going to be a big problem for a lot of residents living along the eastern seaboard. So watch this. Just watch. Watch how this system really takes off. Look at that. Look at how strong that is. That really blows up. And it's all because of the upper level ascent, the upper level energy being involved with this type of setup. All right, you got cold air coming in. And actually, let's look at the temperature gradient here. Oh, actually, let's look at the wind first here. And then we'll look at the temperature gradient, because look at the winds here. Even over the northeast, you have winds here anywhere between 20 to 30 miles an hour. Look at parts of Chesapeake Bay, 35 mile an hour winds. Look at Cape Cod. Look at these sustained winds here. 50 to 60 mile an hour sustained winds. That is ferocious. That is pretty damaging, actually. So that is why there's storm watches out for that area. Even so, I'm not going to get a whole lot of snow. Well, you're also going to get a whole lot of wind as well associated with this system. And then things calm down thereafter. But let me go back here and show you wind gusts. Yeah, see, look at these wind gusts right here along the coast of Cape Hatteras. Yeah, these are 84, 90 mile an hour wind gusts, near hurricane force wind gusts, almost pretty much like a hurricane when you look at it correctly. And then, of course, Chesapeake Bay, you have gusts up to 60 miles an hour. That's pretty destructive. And then you got wind gusts pretty much over 40 to 50 miles an hour, even inland. That's a lot of wind. That's a lot of wind. Let's see about Bristol, Tennessee. Let's see what about the wind there. Yeah, so winds could gust maybe up to 25 to 35 miles an hour in Bristol, Tennessee. So not a whole lot of wind there on this model. but it's going to be a little breezy. But wow, look at the wind gusts over Alabama. 40 to 50 miles an hour, and then possibly close to 50 miles an hour over central Florida associated with this system. And then you can just see how it really, really bonifies very, very quickly and goes into Nova Scotia. All right, let's look at the temperature gradient with this. And I always like looking at, you know what? Let's go to pivotal weather for that, since we're going to be talking about temperatures anyways. So let's go to 850 millibar temperatures. I want to show you all something right here. So take note of how cold it is up here. And this is how baroclinic development happens. When you get warm air wanting to meet cold air and cold air wanting to meet the warm air, things get mixed up here and get jostled around. So you can see this cold lobe up in the lower parts of the atmosphere. This is very cold, by the way, negative 23 Celsius at about 5,000 feet above the surface. And so you can see what happens here. Look at this colder air rushing in from the north and this warmer air lifting northward. So you can see this temperature gradient here associated with this system is why you're going to get a very strong system associated with that, because you're getting temperature advection in play here. You're getting thermal wind gradients involved, and that allows for a system to really bonify on top of upper level jet stream energy dynamics that really allow things to really, really facilitate. And that is why we have really, really a very strong low that is going to be in place here over the eastern seaboard. Let's take a look here at the upper level energy. Oh yeah, right here. See this right here? 700 millibar temperature change. I think this is per 3 hours. Wow. Yeah, so see this right here, negative 21. That is a very big drop in temperatures in the middle parts of the atmosphere. But if we look at 850 millibar frontal genesis, yeah, temperatures are falling very quickly in Tennessee aloft, as much as 8. Oh, no, wait, that's okay. No, wait, this is low level. Okay, never mind. This is not what I thought it was. Sorry. No, this is okay. No, this is basically what's above average, or what's above freezing, what's below freezing. So sorry, I got this wrong. So you can see temperatures though at some points, especially over to the Carolinas, temperatures actually warm up a little bit, and then colder air comes in behind the system, and so that's why you get those winds that are very strong. But I also want to look at 500 millibar vorticity. Let's look at this product, because this is really where you can, it's like a skeletal X-ray view of where the actual energy is. And you can see right here, look at this little lobe. This lobe comes all the way down from the northern plains into the Midwest and then down across Tennessee. It's a very, very sharp trough. And you could even see right here where it curls like this. See that? This actually curls in like a cinnamon roll. That is a classic signature of a well-defined baroclinic system. Very strong left exit region flow, lots of lift in the atmosphere. You got a lot of energy out ahead of this. That's the thunderstorms, maybe some water spouts way offshore of the Carolina coast. But then, of course, you get a lot of that gets flung onto the northern side where all this lift is happening, and that's where you get all your snow. So you can see clearly what we're talking about here. Look how energetic that is. That is a very, very deep low. Very deep. That's a 525 decameter low. That far south. I'm not lying when I say that. That is pretty substantial. That really is. And you can see the colder air coming in on the back side of that system. When we look at our height anomaly, yeah, yeah, 48 decameters below average. Yeah, that gets people's attention. That is a very, very anomalously deep trough. And even over here in Miami, Florida, that is well below averages. And then this whole flow continues, really northwesterly flow, and then maybe another low on the euro beyond that. And this would be 51 decameters below average if that actually comes to pass. I don't believe it because it's a little about 10 days out, but yeah, the negative AO isn't going anywhere, it looks like, for a while. For a while, that is. So yeah, I hope you're used to this, you all back in the Midwest. Cold weather is going to continue for a while. Now, speaking of cold weather, let's take a look here at your wind chill index. We're going to look at the euro on this one. This gets to be a big, big, big problem when you have an anomalous trough like this dropping out of the north, okay, into the southeast. Check this out, okay? And when I mean cold for a lot of locations. Okay, so let's go back here in time. Let me refresh this. Come on. Come on. Come on. To load a little slow for me today, huh? Okay, there we go. Looks like it's loading in. Yeah, that's pivotal weather for you. That's why I like to stick to websites like Weather Bell sometimes because they load in a little faster. All right, so cold air. I'm even surprised there's no extreme cold warnings up here. With wind chills that are going to be this low, negative 25, negative 30 degrees. And look at this. This really comes down. So by Saturday morning, look at these wind chills. Even in Mobile, Alabama, your wind chills in the single digits. You got central Mississippi, negative 2. And again, these are the areas that are still without power. And actually, let's switch over to the power outage map very quickly just to show you all that, yeah, there are people still without power. Still 305 people without power. Still almost 100,000 people without power in Tennessee. And today is Thursday. Today is Thursday, folks. All right. So almost a week without power and still 100,000 people without power. So you got Humphreys County still 2,000 people without power. You got Benton County 1,000 people. Look at this. Tepaw County almost 11,000 people without power. So you could imagine when you get Arctic air like this, yeah, some people that still don't have their power are going to suffer big time. It's not going to be good at all. And I don't expect anyone to have their power back on in 2 days. So yeah, going a week long without power in many areas due to the ice that is accumulating. Now, of course, some of you were able to get your power back on within a day or so, but some people were not so lucky and are still without power. So this is going to be a life-threatening emergency with this Arctic air that comes in. Luckily, no more ice storms here. That's the good part of that, but the bad part is there's cold air coming, and cold air doesn't care. So you can see on this model for Saturday morning, for Saturday morning on the 31st of January, the end out January, wind chill values in the Ohio Valley, negative 31. Look at this. Take note here, though. Let's go fast forward into, say, Saturday morning, or Sunday morning, that is. Look at these wind chill values. 9 degrees, maybe as low as 8 degrees in Tallahassee, northern Florida, 8 degrees. We got 7 degrees. Look at Georgia. Look at Atlanta. Might feel like negative 1. And then look at here over Bristol, Tennessee. Might feel like negative 15, negative 25 to negative 30 degrees below zero. Man, oh man. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Sure hope your heater works and doesn't fail on you like it did before, because that would be terrible. You would really be suffering if that happened. And then look at this. Northeast, the Great Lakes region, you got negative 15, negative 22 degrees below zero with those wind chill values. This is a sort of thing. I mean, yes, it could be -1 up here, northern Wisconsin. You have adapted to that already. But areas down here, like, say, let's actually go to Florida. Let's just do Florida. Areas like Florida, like Miami, yeah, it might feel like 26 degrees. And actually, depending on what model you look at, yeah, so the Euro is very aggressive. Let's see the Canadian. Okay, the Canadian doesn't want to show statewide, but yeah, as low as 22 degrees in Miami, Florida with wind chill values, that's pretty substantial. That really is. And you get up here, it's almost 8 degrees. Yeah, these are unheard of numbers. And when you look at your actual air temperature for the morning hours, yeah, I mean, Tallahassee, 20 degrees, maybe 19 degrees in the morning. That's pretty dangerous. That really is. And actually, when we look at the forecast from a national weather perspective, let's see what they're predicting in Florida. I'm very curious about this. So there is Friday morning, Saturday morning, so it's really going to be Sunday morning. Sunday morning is when temperatures crash. Yep, they're forecasting 21 degrees Sunday morning in Tallahassee, 21 degrees in Gainesville, Jacksonville, 23 degrees. These are the areas even as low as 18 degrees in some areas. And that's your air temperature, not your wind chill. Miami, Florida, as low as 38 degrees. And could even get down even lower, depending on the wind direction. Yeah, central, like more further inland, yeah, parts of Florida could get down to the mid to upper 20s. Man, that is not good. That is very, 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 that is significant. That gets a lot of people's attention when it gets that cold down there. So you can see let's go back here. Yeah, 30 degrees. You got some, mid-20s. Man, that's really bad. Sarasota, 40 degrees. Tampa, yeah, you have to be right along the brim of the coast to even get above freezing temperatures, unless you are on the eastern coast of Florida where you get offshore flow. Temperatures are going to be in the mid-20s right there. As low as, it's getting to as low as maybe 32 degrees in Miami. Yeah, that is dangerous. That is, even Key West, Florida, in the low 50s in the morning. Low 50s even in Key West, Florida. Yeah, that should get your attention. That really should. And let's just put this in a reference, okay? Our low tonight, where I live, will be 42 degrees. Okay, so we'll be even much warmer than maybe parts of Key West, Florida, under this type of Arctic invasion. And the wind chills, far outweigh the actual air temperatures. Wind chills even in Key West could be in the low 40s. Man, that's a nail biter right there. See Georgia really quickly. Yeah, see, Macon, you got Statesboro. Very cold temperatures. Atlanta, specifically here, 2 degrees. This is pretty dangerous. That's why there's extreme cold warnings out. Alabama and Mississippi, where the power outages have happened, single-digit wind chill values. I think, though, Saturday morning will be the coldest when it comes to wind chills for the area, like Birmingham, 0 degrees. Huntsville, Florence, -4. And you can see those temperatures really plummeting once that colder air comes in. And then let's go here in Louisiana, New Orleans, Lafayette. Yeah, it's very significant. Monroe, 6 degrees. Jackson, 2 degrees. Hadesburg, 6 degrees. Shreveport, 8 degrees. Yeah, that should get your attention. That really should. And then let's go over to Tennessee. Man, Bristol's not on the map here. I guess pivotal weather doesn't care about you, easy peasy. I care about you, though. That's what matters most. So you can see, -7. But I think it's going to be colder Sunday morning, where your wind chills are going to be -10. And then, of course, parts of Kentucky, or most of Kentucky and Tennessee, very cold wind chills. So, yeah, that's going to be the biggest concern here, is the wind chills. Definitely record-breaking temperatures. Could see even some all-time record low temperatures, especially in Miami, Florida. The further south you go, it gets more anomalous. And actually, let's take a look at the temperature anomaly for that reasoning. Yeah, so let's actually zoom in here. Okay, no. So they're not going to give me state-level temperature anomalies. But look at this. So, of course, Miami, Florida, or most of Florida is below average already, right? You're 15 to 20 degrees below average to begin with. You're only going to warm up a little bit to near average. Be specific. Be about 2 degrees above normal in central Florida. But look at this colder air coming in. Yeah, temperatures in parts of Bristol, Tennessee, northern Georgia, 30 to 40 degrees below normal. Yeah, that's when you're looking at some record low temperatures for sure for Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, or record low daytime highs. Record low peak daytime highs. That's another word I should look for. But then look at this. In Florida, 26 to 30 degrees below average. And look at this right here. 35 degrees below normal. There's one area you can see 40 degrees below normal. 40 degrees below normal in Florida. Yeah. That's very anomalous. That is very, very, very anomalous. Probably more than likely once in a blue moon, you'll see something like this. Very, very cold air. Very cold. And then, of course, temperatures will eventually warm up. But boy, I don't think you're going to get much relief. You're going to have below average temperatures pretty much through the foreseeable future, according to the GFS or the Euro model, indicating repeated Arctic blasts coming on in. Now, speaking of that, when we zoom back out, you can see the extent of this pocket of colder air across much of the Great Lakes, the Midwest, the Deep South, the Mid-Atlantic, and then here comes another one, not as bad, then a quick warm-up, but look at what goes on, followed by another Arctic plunge here, potentially over the Mid-Atlantic. Yet again, it just doesn't go away. This pattern does not want to change. And then maybe another Arctic blast thereafter. Look at this. 42 degrees below average. I mean, man, that's ridiculous. Through the entire forecast period, this area might not even get above 50 or 60 degrees or even 40 degrees for a while. I mean, you can see the repetitiveness to the Arctic air mass, but of course that is very far out, because if we look at our ensembles really quickly, you can see what I mean by that. So here's your anomaly, your ensemble forecast. Taking note, yeah, this Arctic air mass here in 10 days seems to be panning out on the Euro, so there's pretty good agreement, actually, on the ensemble with temperatures 30 degrees below average. And then, yeah, it just kind of sticks around for a while. So that's something that we will have to really pay very close attention to in future updates. Now, another thing that I wanted to show you all is the reason why this pattern is happening is if we look at the teleconnections, this is your problem right here. This is your issue. A very negative AO, an Arctic oscillation. So that means high pressure builds in across higher latitudes. That colder air wants to race southward. Okay. So it gets very far south, and this is where we're at right now. Very negative AO. If we look at the GEFS ensemble, see what that's showing. Yeah, so this is the GEFS ensemble showing a negative AO. We look at the European ensemble, pretty much similar. So let's make a big deal about this. Let's make a deal. How about as long as this stays negative, the eastern half of the country is going to be swamped with cold Arctic outbreaks, snowstorms, big ones that occur here. All because of this. No positive AO here. When we look at the NAO, which is pretty much similar to the AO, look how negative this gets. -4 to -3 to -4. Potentially some of the outlier scenarios take this down to -5 on the AO. So that means very weak stratospheric polar vortex. Cold air wants to go where it wants to go, and I don't see this changing. I think you're going to see a lot of Arctic air outbreaks for the foreseeable future. And when we take a look here at the weeklies, oh wait, yeah, the weeklies are right here. Yeah, this stays quite negative for a while. And if it does get to the positive side, well, most of the ensemble mean keeps us negative all the way until perhaps early to mid-March. So yeah, winter was delayed until literally mid or early January. Now all of a sudden it's like, okay, winter is finally here and throwing everyone off guard. Now I'm not saying that this is going to stay negative until March, but for sure, well into the middle of February, we're seeing a very negative AO and NAO that's going to be in place. So what does that look like here on the map in terms of our extended forecast? Looking far out there for the potential for additional intense snowstorms. Yes, there's going to be more big snowstorms coming because of this pattern that we're entering. So looking at the stratospheric polar vortex, yeah, no wonder why. Big sudden stratospheric warming event in place over Greenland, over the Atlantic. Nice good blob over much of the Arctic Ocean. But as we go forward here, you can see what ends up happening. This is really weak polar vortex up in the upper parts of the stratospheric, that is. And then look what ends up happening. It really breaks free. We got one lobe of that stratospheric polar vortex over here. We got another one over Germany, over Europe. So you can see here and here. So you could imagine that some of this colder air is going to be felt across much of the United States into middle of February in this type of setup, okay? So yes, there might be some warming that takes place from time to time, but it's going to be plagued by more Arctic outbreaks. So instead of seeing less Arctic outbreaks, we did see them in December, right? But it was more followed by more warmer weather. Less Arctic, more warm weather. Now, the opposite here is for February. More Arctic, less warmth, if that makes sense. Because just how messed up this is. This is the weakest stratospheric polar vortex I have seen in a while. Really weak. And that really has huge implications when it comes to our weather because it really messes up things. Yeah, look how warm this is. Very far above average stratospheric polar vortex. And so when we look at our surface pressure anomalies, yeah, see this? Above average sea level pressures in the Arctic that allows colder air to flow southward from the Arctic. That's pretty much of what we're seeing here. And so that pattern really doesn't change. That Arctic high really remains locked up there. And some of these Arctic highs get released from the Arctic Ocean. As you can see here, here's one right here. It kind of gets absorbed, and here's another one right here. See this? So it's repetitiveness. It keeps on coming out of high latitudes. As long as that happens, you're going to have some record-setting cold air. And yeah, if the pattern is favorable, you could even get some wild storms that develop over the Northeast and even across the Midwest as well. Especially if the pattern temporarily favors a West Coast trough, and you get flow like this in the United States that's more out of the Southwest, yeah, you can definitely get some big storms, dynamic storms. Hey, Alex Miller, how are you doing? So, yes, any questions, everybody? I wanted to try to make this discussion around an hour long, so I can get to questions for the last 30 minutes. Any questions in regards to the pattern the snowstorm that is going to be impacting the United States in the next 24 to 36 hours, but more so the extended forecast, that long range forecast. I definitely see more snowstorms, big ones coming beyond this storm system. So there's just going to be a lot of winter weather to track here on the channel for a while. But for those, I want to give you guys a huge thank you, by the way, for subscribing to the channel. I cannot believe we're at 70,142 subscribers. So I do appreciate all the support that you all give me here on the YouTube channel. It really does mean a lot. It really does. So if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. You guys have made this very much possible here for getting me to 70,000. So thank you all for that. It's free too. There's no cost whatsoever. Okay, so let's go to snowfall totals. So what about Georgia for snowfall totals? So I'm assuming you're probably in the Atlanta area. So in the Atlanta, Georgia area, you're looking at about 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. You're very welcome, KKP. I'm glad I'm able to do this. No, you did not. You did not make 50,000 of those YouTube accounts because YouTube would have probably banned you a long time ago off of YouTube. You did not. Yeah, I want to give a big shout out to Nate Long and Easy Peasy Lemon Squeezy that lives in Bristol, Tennessee, for getting me to where I need to be. So where are they issuing weather warnings? Right now, they're mainly issuing weather warnings across Tennessee right now. That's where there's winter storm warnings. There's still winter storm watches out for the Carolinas. How about New Jersey? So New Jersey is not going to see a whole lot of snow out of this. Southern New Jersey, you have a better chance of seeing at least an inch, at the very most, maybe a couple of inches. But I don't think you're going to see much more than that because of where the storm is. Actually, you know what? Southernmost New Jersey here, you could see about 3 inches at the very most. But I don't think you're going to see like more than a few inches. I really don't think so. Long Island, on the expected amount, though, that has gone up a little bit more. Now you're looking at about a 1/2 inch of snow, which is, that's something. And then, of course, Rhode Island, Nantucket over here, you're looking at between a 1/2 inch to maybe about 1.5 inches. What about ice? So ice amounts are going to be very limited here in the Wilmington, North Carolina area, only expecting anywhere between about a few hundredths of an inch, maybe about 1/100th of an inch, maybe a trace to maybe 4/100ths of an inch. We're not expecting a whole lot there in the Wilmington, North Carolina area. Could Brunswick get any snow? So Brunswick, give me some time here. Let me look this up. So Brunswick. Sorry, I should know all my cities by now, but I'm not in the Virginia area. Oh, New Brunswick is in New Jersey. Okay. So New Brunswick, you're not going to see much snow at all. Maybe a dusting. And you will literally capture all the snowflakes, and then it will be done pretty much. So I don't see New Brunswick getting a whole lot of snowfall out of this storm at all. Thank goodness for a lot of those that don't want the snow. You're getting your wish. You're getting your wish. Because you already have had 2 feet of snowfall. So, I mean, enjoy the snow. The areas down here, it's like, okay, nature will give them snow now. So it's your guys' turn down here in the Carolinas. And with cold air following, that snow is not going to melt very much at all. It might stick for over a week. What about High Point, North Carolina? High Point, North Carolina. So High Point, North Carolina, you're looking at, so that's up in there. Let's go over here. So High Point, North Carolina is near Greensboro. That's over here. Yeah, you're looking at about 5 to 7 inches, 5 to 8 inches of snowfall. Gloucester, Virginia, Gloucester. Oh, Gloucester, sorry. So Gloucester, Virginia, that's near where my sister lives. You're looking at about 3 to 4 inches of snow, 3 to 4 inches. Not a whole lot, but hey, snow is snow. Snow is snow. Ocean City, Maryland. Or did you mean Missouri? You meant Missouri. So we'll put in Missouri. Okay, Ocean City, Missouri. You're looking at, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking around with you guys. Some of you, I like to joke around a lot. So Ocean City, Maryland, you are here. You're looking at about 9 inches. 9 inches of snowfall in that area, according to the National Weather Service. I know, I'm kidding with you. I'm kidding with you. I know where that is. I really do. Because the MD, Hobart, North Carolina. Oh yeah, you're getting snow. Ooh, you're getting a lot of snow. Herbert, North Carolina, or Hubbard, North Carolina, that is maybe 10 inches. Yeah, maybe 10 inches. Hampton, Virginia. Hampton, you mean Southampton. Hampton, Virginia. So, Southampton, New York. No, I'm just kidding. You meant Hampton. Okay, so Hampton, you're looking at about, let's see. So you're looking at about 7 to 13 inches of snowfall, roughly. Asheville, Spring Lake, North Carolina. Okay, Spring Lake, North Carolina. You're looking at, so you're down here near Fayetteville. So you're looking at about 9 inches of snowfall. About 8 to 9 inches of snowfall. Asheville, North Carolina. Asheville, North Carolina. North Carolina. So Asheville, North Carolina. Man, these cities, I'm telling you, I do not like the layout of this. Okay, so Asheville is way over here. You're looking at about 3 to 5 inches of snowfall. High Point, Greenville, South Carolina. So Greenville, South Carolina, about 4 to 6 inches of snowfall is expected there. Windsor, North Carolina. Windsor, North Carolina. So Windsor, North Carolina, you're looking at, let's see. So Windsor, North Carolina, you're looking at about 6 to 12 inches of snowfall. About 6 to 12 inches. High Point, North Carolina. Man, a lot of questions. This is great, though. This is great. Yeah, so High Point. So that's near Greensboro. So near Greensboro, okay, yeah. So about 7 to 10 inches of snowfall is expected for Greensboro. Boston, Massachusetts, you are looking at right now, Boston, Massachusetts, 0 inches. Maybe up to a half an inch on the high end amount, but we should get more better finalization once we get closer to that. Yeah, definitely a lot of snow for North Carolina and also for Bristol, by the way. Brother, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. You're looking at 4 to 12 inches of snowfall. Easy's going to turn into snow, a snowman. He's going to turn into a snowman, everyone. You want to see him turn into a snowman? Columbia, South Carolina. So, Columbia, South Carolina. Columbia, South Carolina, you are looking at... Man, these cities are... Okay, South Carolina, yeah. Man, these dots. Okay, so South Carolina is about... I would say Columbia, South Carolina, about 5 to 11 inches. Thank you so much. I'm glad you like the forecasts. Concord, North Carolina. Let's go to Concord, North Carolina. So Concord, North Carolina is right about near Charlotte. So you're looking at about 7 to 15 inches of snowfall, roughly 7 to 15 inches. Which, by the way, if you all want to support the YouTube channel, I haven't promoted this very much. Please consider donating via Streamlabs, because if you donate to me on via Super Chat on YouTube, I only get a proportion of that earning for the channel. So if you donate to me on Streamlabs, I get a full amount. So for an example, if you donate me $50, I get $50 via my PayPal. So it goes through Streamlabs Streamlabs sends it over to PayPal, and that's how it all works. So if you do want to support the channel, a lot more of the endless work that I've been doing over the last couple of weeks here with you all when it comes to improving the content, giving you all detailed snowfall estimates and forecasts, please donate if you can, and also subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Augusta, Georgia. So for Augusta, Georgia, about 2 to 4 inches of snowfall is expected with the snowstorm. Man, I wish I was there. Wilmington, North Carolina. You're looking at about 8 to 12 inches of snowfall. Linear. So let's go to that. That's for North Carolina. Pretty much over here, you're looking at about 6 to 12 inches of snowfall. Louisburg. Okay, Louisburg. You're looking at about roughly about 6 to 15 inches of snowfall. Bladesboro, North Carolina, man, weird little town names. Hey, that means you guys are watching from Bladesboro, North Carolina. So that little town right there is going to be here near the Kinnysville area, you're looking at roughly about 10 to 15 inches of snowfall, roughly. Raleigh, North Carolina, that's an easy one. So Raleigh, North Carolina, you're looking at about 9 to 17 inches of snowfall. Guilford, North Carolina. Guilford, North Carolina. A lot of North Carolina requests here. Incredible. No one's watching from Virginia, I guess. Okay, so for Guilford, that's a very small town. Golly, that is a tiny town. I don't even know if I'll find it here on the map in itself, but I'll try my best. Wow, that is small. That is a small town. So that is going to be over here in this route. There's no point forecast, so I'll give you my own personal opinions. I would say about 6 to 13 inches of snowfall. And that is, yeah, only 251 people live there. Man, that is a tiny town. Suffolk. You're very welcome, by the way. Someone said, thank you, my friend. Yeah, you're very welcome, Skippy Boy 15, for that. So Suffolk, Virginia, which is near Norfolk. I think I said it right that time. So Suffolk, you're looking at about 6 to 12 inches. 16 inches is a little too high, in my opinion. Wilson, North Carolina. Wilson, North Carolina. Yeah, so Wilson, North Carolina, you are looking at, let's see here. So Wilson, North Carolina, you're looking at about 10 to 14 inches of snowfall. Somerville, South Carolina. Somerville, South Carolina. Let's take a look at that. So Somerville, near Charleston, South Carolina, you are looking at, okay, that's central. Okay. So you are looking at, reference point will be Charleston, so it's very close to Charleston. You are looking pretty much at, okay, there it is. Yeah, not very much. Not very much. 2 to 5 inches of snowfall. Raleigh, North Carolina, you're expecting to see, again, about 10 to 15 inches of snowfall. Virginia Beach, Virginia. So for Virginia Beach, Virginia, you're looking at 9 to 12 inches of snowfall. Emerald Isle, North Carolina. Emerald Isle. So Emerald Isle, North Carolina. Oh my goodness. Rest in peace. You're going to get some pretty intense winds there. Very strong winds. So I don't really care. Well, I do care, but don't worry so much about the snowfall amounts as for the damaging winds that will follow with this storm system. That's going to be the thing. So, yeah, you getting perhaps 10 to 16 inches of snowfall cannot be ruled out. Charleston, West Virginia. There's another Charleston. Too many Charlestons. Okay, so that is, yeah, you're not getting any snow. Tough luck, Buttercup. You're not getting very much at all. If you do get anything, maybe 2 or 3 inches. But yeah, you're not going to get a whole lot out of this. Oh, I didn't see the T. Sorry. I thought it was Wilson. It's Whitson. It's Whitson. Sorry about that. The T and the L look alike almost, so that's why I said, oh, Wilson. These names are not easy to see here with their glow background with the white. So it's Whitson, not Wilson. Morganton, North Carolina. Morganton, North Carolina. Morganton, North Carolina. Let's see here. So you're looking at about 7 to 12 inches of snowfall. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, you're looking at about 5 to 12 inches of, about 5 to 10 inches of snowfall. What about Sumter? Sumter, South Carolina. So that's not far up. Sumter, South Carolina. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so Sumter. So Sumter is going to be over here. So Sumter, you're expecting 6 to 12 inches of snowfall. Which, by the way, that's your favorite city. You know what my favorite city is? You know what my favorite city is? No one would ever guess what my favorite city is. Roanoke, Virginia. So Roanoke, Virginia, you're looking at... Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. So Roanoke, Virginia, you're looking at about 4 to 12 inches. No one would ever guess. My favorite town is Watertown, actually. Watertown is my favorite town. I actually have a couple. Watertown, Bristol, and Kokomo are my 3 favorites. If you tell me, is Miami your favorite city? I'll be like, heck no. No, it's not my favorite city. It's terrible. I do not like Miami, Florida. I do not like it. Too hot, too muggy, too steamy, too ugly. Not ugly. I don't want to be that mean, but like it is, yeah, I am not a fanfare of the humid, hot weather at all. But yeah, Indiana does get humid, but it's like shorter in timeline. It doesn't last as long. Johnson City, Tennessee. So Johnson City, Tennessee. Okay, so Johnson City's buried in this, isn't it? I know Johnson City's over here. Where are you? Okay, you're way back in here. Buried in the Appalachians. Yeah, you're looking at about, because of the orographic effects, I wouldn't be surprised if you get about 8 to 20 inches of snowfall. 8 to 20 inches of snowfall. Midtown New York, will it shift towards New York, the storm? I don't think it's going to. I think we're pretty much locked in right now where this storm is actually going to set up at right now. Maybe a little bit further trends to the north would mean a little bit of the difference, but pretty much locked and loaded where the areas are going to get snow. I know. It's unfortunate. It is unfortunate, but you know what? There's always more snowstorms, like what the GFS shows, right? I mean, if you don't get this one, which you don't, well, look at this. You got another one coming up for the middle of next week. We'll see if that pans out. And then maybe more after that. So you're not done. You're not done, I strongly believe. Franklin County, Virginia. So Franklin County, Virginia, that is near Roanoke, down to the south of Roanoke. Let's go over to that. So Franklin County could get 6 to 8 inches or 6 to 9 inches of snowfall. Chesapeake, Virginia, snow and wind. So Chesapeake here. Let's go over to Chesapeake. So Chesapeake, Virginia, definitely some strong winds and some snow. Yes, down here near Hampton, near Portsmouth, between about 7 to 12 inches of snowfall is expected. Oh my gosh, spamming. All right. Think that's good with the questions. You're very welcome. Delty 74-2. You're very welcome. So, yeah. Hall County, Georgia. So, Hall County, Georgia. Hall County, Georgia will only get like 2 or so inches. That's like in here. More like 1 to 2 inches. You're very welcome. I appreciate you all tuning in. I really do. Because I will not have time for a video this afternoon. That's kind of what this live stream is for, to replace. Because I'm very busy with family stuff this afternoon. But I will be back tomorrow morning with another video, with another upload at around 1:30 in the morning, which, by the way, I want to ask you all, and actually, if Easy is here, easy peasy, if you're here, ask the chat, what time should I upload throughout a day? Should I do more of morning uploads as my normal schedule, or the early afternoon, like 11 o'clock my time? That would be 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't think Easy is here. I should make a poll. I really should. That's what I'm going to make really quickly here. What time should my default, should put my default uploads be? My default uploads be. And we'll put like a few. I'll put all in Eastern time, so that will be easier for you guys. So 2, 3, 4. So okay, so we'll do 4:30. 2. So we'll do 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll do 6. We'll do 6. And we'll do one more. 8. All right. You guys go vote. Go vote. That's my question to you. Hamlet, let's do this one. Okay. So over here, okay, so that's near Greenboro. So it's near Greenboro. Can't even see this map. They need to make it better. They definitely need to have some work on it. So you're looking at about 8 to 19 inches of snow. Hamlet, North Carolina. Let's go to Hamlet. Hamlet, North Carolina, you are looking right on the border there too. So you're down here. So you're looking at about 10 to 17 inches of snowfall. All right, 5-minute warning, folks. 5-minute warning. Any last bit of questions? If you haven't voted yet, please consider doing so. It is a tie. It is a tie with only 30 votes in between 4:30 in the morning and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have noticed, though, when I upload in the morning, I seem to get a lot more traction. So that's kind of why I'm really leaning towards default uploads in the morning, especially when it comes to severe weather. Severe weather, a lot of people like tuning in early in the morning for severe weather. So that's kind of what my thinking is. Oh, I'm not going to turn into Ryan Hall, y'all. What the heck? No. It's you know, you got to look at your analytics and you got to determine, okay, if most of my morning videos are doing good over my afternoon videos, then what does that tell you, right? You know. And it would make logical sense. People wake up to look at their phone and be like, "Oh, let's check YouTube. Let's see if anyone has weather content out there. Oh, David popped up on my feed. Okay, let's click and watch David's weather channel or something, you know?" So, do Fayetteville, North Carolina. So, Fayetteville, North Carolina, we shall do. So, Fayetteville, North Carolina, you're looking at about, I would say about 10 to 16 inches of snowfall. Wakefield, Virginia. Wakefield. Oh, yeah, that's just a storm question. So Wakefield, Virginia. We'll go to Wakefield. Wakefield. Okay, so that's towards the west. That's over here. So Wakefield, that's close. That's over here. About 6 to 12 inches. Now, here is a question for you all that are still watching this live stream. Where is there a Smithfield somewhere? Is there a Smithfield? I want you all to answer that question for me. Because when I would used to work at the grocery store industry, we would have a lot of Smithfield meats and bacon and stuff in the meat department. And I was like, man, Smithfield, that seems recognizable. Atlanta suburbs. So the Atlanta suburbs are going to get about 1 to 4 inches of snowfall, but more like 2 inches. More like 2 inches. Smithfield, North Carolina. I'm sure that, okay, so that's where some of the meat is made, I guess, or produced at and then sent out. Smithfield, okay. I know I could look it up on the map anyways, but I was like, you guys are my AI. I'm asking you guys a question, right? So Smithfield, North Carolina. Okay, yeah, wow. I'm maybe it is a theory. That's where the meat comes from. For most grocery stores, comes from Smithfield, the brand. The brand is Smithfield. What model am I using? I'm using the National Weather Service model, but this model right here is the European. That's what I'm using. All right. Okay, everybody, it is 1 o'clock. I have to get going, but I sure hope you found this live stream helpful, detailed, informative, and life-saving. If you want to see more like this, please donate if you can. Well, yeah, once the stream's over, you can anyway. Well, you could use a super thanks. But otherwise, please subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Boy, we're almost 70,200 subscribers. Are you serious? I mean, look at this. Literally big number here already. So again, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please consider doing so, folks, because I will have a video out in the morning at around 1:30 in the morning Pacific Standard Time. That will be 4:30 in the morning Eastern Standard Time to cover this snowstorm for you all in the Carolinas and Virginia. Okay. And then I'll make an ultimate decision if I should move my uploads more to the morning hours. You know, it's competition, of course. But yeah, as always, have a great rest of your Thursday on the 29th day here of January 2026. Love you guys. Kiss. And I'll see you back here tomorrow morning, first thing at 4:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace out. Peace out, folks.